What's going on, guys? I'm Tim Kelly. This is Phillies Stoplight. The Phillies did not clinch the division on Sunday. They lost to the Royals, and then the Mets ended up winning in a walk-off home run by Pete Alonso over the Rangers. So the Phillies will have to wait another day at least to clinch the NL East. The Mets do not play Monday, so the Phillies, who start at 10-10, if they win, they're in. If not, they have to wait another day. But it really is a matter of when they clinch the NL East more than anything. They would literally have to lose every game the rest of the season, and the Mets would have to win every game the rest of the season for the Phillies not to win the NL East. So it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of when the Phillies do it. Obviously, I think a lot of people would have liked to see it at home and certainly on a game that isn't going to start at 10-10, but that's the way it goes. And because the Giants lost Sunday afternoon, the Phillies did clinch a playoff spot. They go back to the playoffs now for the fourth time, and it's only the second time in the history of the team that they've made the playoffs 4 years in a row. And I get it. There's more playoff spots now than ever. Like the 2022 and in prior playoff format iterations, the Phillies would not have been in the playoffs. But they were the number one wild card seed in 2023. They won the division last year, and they're going to win the division this year. So these last 3 years in particular have been excellent. And obviously 2022 is the one where they won the pennant and reached the World Series. So this is one of the best 4-year runs in the history of the team. And the only thing it's missing to really be put in that pantheon with 07 to 11 is a World Series. We'll see if they're able to get that this year, but the Phillies are back in the playoffs. Now, Aaron Nola started Sunday, and he was great for 4 innings, and he gives up the home run to Vinny Pasquantino in the 5th, and everything kind of melts down in the 6th. And it's very indicative of how things have gone for Aaron Nola this season, and it's unfortunate for the Phillies, but it certainly leaves you with questions. And Rob Thompson was asked after the game, do you take the track record into account, or do you really need to see something from Aaron Nola over these final 2 games for him to be someone you give the ball to in the playoffs? And he said, well, you definitely take into account his track record, no doubt about it. But I do want to see him throw the ball consistently like he did the first 4 or 5 innings tonight. So I think that's a fair thought from him. Aaron Nola obviously said, like I asked him, what is it that you feel like you need to refine? And he said, I need to refine the big inning. And that's something that's hurt Aaron Nola for a lot of his career. When he's struggled, it's usually been because there's a blow up in 1 inning, but it's been exasperated this year, and they're going to have to figure something out. In my mind, I think the Phillies would like or would have liked him to pitch well enough in September where he could start game 2 or game 3 and you break up the 3 lefties. I don't think that's realistic right now. I mean, I'm not saying 100% they won't do it. I don't think they should do it based off the way that September's gone. I think right now your best 3 pitchers are clearly the 3 lefties. So you would start Christopher Sanchez game 1, Jesus Luzardo game 3, break up Ranger Schwarber, or use Ranger Schwarber to break them up. He's, yes, a lefty, but a different type of pitcher, less power, so it gives you a different look. To me, those are the best 4, because you can talk about, in the regular season, there's value. Even if you give up 4 or 5 runs, if you go 6 or 7 innings, there's value in that. In the playoffs, there's not that value. So if you don't trust that Aaron Nola can't have that one big inning, it's not about eating innings and you got 162 of these and you need to conserve your bullpen. It's about you need to win this game. And if you have an inning where you give up 4 or 5 runs, you're not going to win the game. So in my mind, the Phillies don't need, assuming they get a first round bye, whether they're the number 1 or the number 2 seed, which unless they fall flat on their faces in this Dodgers series is likely going to be the outcome. They're not going to need a 4th starter until the NLCS. So I think Aaron Nola will be on the roster for the postseason, but he becomes sort of a long man, whatever. Not one of the guys you're starting in those first 3 games, and it's a 5-game series with an off day after game 1 or 2. There's an extra off day this year, so the Phillies really will only need 3 starting pitchers in the NLDS. I would say you use those 3 and you find a role for Nola potentially, but you don't use him until game 4 of the NLCS if you get there. And I still think he's the guy for game 4 of the NLCS. I would still feel more comfortable starting him than Taijuan Walker. We'll see what Walker Buehler does. He had some nice moments in his first start with the Phillies. I think in my mind, he's competing more ultimately for a bullpen spot in the playoffs than a rotation spot, but who knows? We'll see. But that's really where I'm at with Aaron Nola right now. Now, as the Phillies head into this Dodgers series, there's going to be a lot of discussion about the MVP race because while I think Paul Skeens kind of deserves to be in that mix as well, the top two guys in most people's mind are Shohei Ohtani and Kyle Schwarber. And Kyle Schwarber has had a remarkable season. He certainly deserves to be in this discussion. He leads baseball with 127 RBIs. He homered in the first inning yesterday. He now has 52 home runs, which are first in the NL. They trail only Cal Raleigh of the Mariners in all of baseball. It's been a remarkable season. He deserves the MVP chance. He deserves all that. But the problem with the MVP case for him is that Ohtani leads the NL in slugging percentage, OPS, OPS plus, and runs scored. Schwarber has a 938 OPS, which is excellent. Ohtani has a 1.008 OPS. Schwarber has a 4.7 WAR according to Fangraphs, which is a career high. Ohtani has a 6.7 WAR just as a hitter. And that obviously does not take into account his pitching. And I'm not always sure WAR is the greatest stat for evaluating DHs, but it's a lot better, a lot smoother when you're comparing two guys that are DHs than when you try to compare Schwarber or Ohtani to a guy that plays another position. These guys, Schwarber's played limited games in the outfield. Ohtani obviously hasn't played any games at a defensive position in his career, but he's also a pitcher on top of that. And I just think it's going to be very difficult for Kyle Schwarber, regardless of how this season finishes. If he got to 60 home runs, like maybe you have that discussion. But Ohtani's going to hit 50-plus home runs. It's not like Ohtani is having this remarkable season average-wise and RBIs-wise, but he's going to hit 35 home runs. He's going to hit 50-plus home runs. It may not, it probably won't be as many as Kyle Schwarber, but it's still going to be among the league leaders, a second straight year of 50 home runs. And I understand some people get fatigued in seeing the same guy win the award, but the way I would look at it as is you're watching history. One player, Barry Bonds, has won 4 or more MVPs. Now, he won 7. He had performance-enhancing drugs that certainly contributed to some of those. But he's the only one that's ever won more than 3. Ohtani's about to win his 4th. He's already only the second guy in MLB history to win an MVP in both the AL and NL. He did that last year, joining Frank Robinson. He was the first full-time DH last year to win an MVP because prior years he had been a DH and a starting pitcher. This year, again, he's a DH and a starting pitcher. So he's broken that barrier. He may win the MVP every year for 10 years if he's healthy, and he'll deserve to because he's one of the greatest players that we've ever seen. Kyle Schwarber's having a remarkable season, and it's not going to really make a ton of difference whether he's the MVP or finishes second or third on what he gets this offseason. He's going to make out very well in free agency. I believe that will be from the Phillies, but we'll see. But I think it's pretty unlikely where things stand with 2 weeks to go that Kyle Schwarber can really make a push unless he hits like 10 more home runs this season or something ridiculous, which you can't put past him. He went to LA a few years ago and hit 3 home runs in a game, so I guess anything is possible. But the problem is Ohtani isn't just going to fall off these last couple weeks either. So most likely scenario in my mind is Ohtani wins the NL MVP for the second year in a row and Kyle Schwarber ends up finishing second. And if you're Kyle Schwarber, nothing to hold your head low about, and he is the ultimate, doesn't care about individual stuff, just wants to be a team guy, and I'm sure that's what he'll say in this case. Now, the Dodgers and Phillies will meet. That's why we were talking about the Ohtani-Schwarber thing. They will meet 3 games, 10 p.m. starts, which obviously sucks here on the East Coast, especially in September. Like, it's one thing in the summer, certainly when like kids are out of school and stuff in the summer. I remember how much I enjoyed when the Phillies would go to LA and San Francisco because I'm a night person. Like, I could stay up till 3 a.m. regardless. A little less so these days, but I'm still like more of a night person. But these 10-10 starts, certainly before the pitch clock, but even since the pitch clock, they're rough. Like Arizona 9:40, I can work with that. That extra half an hour, it's killer. And I certainly imagine it's killer for people that have real jobs and have to go to work and get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But nonetheless, that's the time those 3 games are going to start at. And if you want to see the Phillies clinch the division, you're going to have to wait it out till 10-10 at Chavez Ravine. But game one, and these are all good pitching matchups. Game one is Ranger Suarez versus Emmett Sheehan. Sheehan has a 3.32 ERA. Ranger Suarez, we know, has had, he struggled after the All-Star break, but he's been pretty great since then. Christopher Sanchez will go against Ohtani in game two. Now, Ohtani's not going to be a guy that pitches 7 innings, but this will finally be the first time that Ohtani pitches against the Phillies. I remember a few years ago, 2 years ago, we were so excited. Everyone in Philadelphia was so excited to see Shohei Ohtani pitch when he was on the Angels. Ended up like a week before that he needed elbow surgery for the second time, so he didn't get that chance. But he had been lined up to pitch against the Phillies. Didn't happen, and he still hasn't pitched at Citizens Bank Park, and really hasn't played particularly well by his standards at Citizens Bank Park against the Phillies. But this is a great matchup. Ohtani, what makes him so amazing, I think he is a better hitter than a pitcher, but he's good enough to be one of the 10 best pitchers in baseball. So you have him against Christopher Sanchez, who's been one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball. It's entirely possible this ends up being a game one playoff matchup at some point down the road. So kind of a harbinger of things to come here in game two. And then game three is no slouch either. A great lefty matchup. Jesus Luzardo, who has pitched very well of late, against Blake Snell, who I've never really particularly enjoyed watching Blake Snell pitch. He's going to throw 100 pitches over 5 innings and walk 3 guys and strike out 6 or 7. And it's not like the most enjoyable thing, but it's hard to argue with the results. He's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, very good pitcher, and I'm sure wants to have people associate him with anything other than getting pulled in that 2020 World Series with the Tampa Bay Rays, ironically, against the Dodgers. So he has a lot to prove down the stretch here, too. He's pitched pretty well since missing a majority of the season, and this is a big game for him and for the Dodgers if they want to have any chance at getting that first-round bye. So it's going to be an exciting series. Anthony Sanfilippo will be out there for us on Pattison. I'll be back here in Philly with all the coverage I can provide from here. We got Eagles coverage, everything. So stay tuned to onpattison.com, and I'll talk to you guys next time.